By now, most of you are aware of the ongoing aggression against the Ukraine by Russia. What you may not know is that recently a Kingswood alumni has been working hard on providing humanitarian aid on the Ukrainian border. Today, on Night Watch, we are going to change the tone a little and get up to speed over there. And then, we'll have an in-depth interview with Kingswood alumnus Becca Connelly and what she's doing to lend a hand. All of that, plus sports, school announcements, and much more. This is Night Watch. Welcome to Night Watch. I am Kay Baker.
And I'm Caitlin Cooper. Our top story today is the conflict in Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th in a major escalation of a conflict that dates back to 2014. The invasion is the largest military assault on a European state since World War II and has caused Europe's largest refugee crisis since that war. More than 3.6 million Ukrainians have left their country and millions have fled their homes. Former governor and Hollywood celebrity Arnold Schwarzenegger took to the airwaves and recently recorded a direct plea to the Russian soldiers.
I'm sending this message to various different channels to reach my dear Russian friends. I know that your government has told you that this is a war to denazify Ukraine. Denazify Ukraine? This is not true. Ukraine is a country with a Jewish president, I might add, whose father's three brothers were all murdered by the Nazis. See, the world has turned against Russia because of its actions in Ukraine. Whole city blocks have been flattened by Russian artillery and bombs, including a children's hospital and a maternity hospital.
Night Watch correspondent Tyler Desjardins recently sat and spoke to Kingswood alumni Becca Connelly about her efforts to lend a hand.
Becca Connelly graduated from Kingswood in 2019, and she is currently studying in Madrid. Connelly made the decision to travel to Ukraine to assist in the humanitarian efforts, specifically the evacuation of Ukrainian refugees to neighboring countries. Becca is currently back in Madrid and is with us now. Thank you for joining us, Becca. How are you today?
Thanks, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You love to see it. So we're just going to hop right into the questions here. So what thoughts were going through your head as you were planning to jump into action?
Honestly, we didn't have much of a plan, quite frankly. We just kind of hopped on a plane. We knew we had enough money, like in our own accounts, to rent a car and drive to the border. And we were just going to show up at the border and see what was needed. And we immediately found that what was needed was transportation. So we started driving refugees to and from the main cities in Poland. Yeah.
Were there any, what were the biggest difficulties with your whole, I don't want to say escapade, but that's really what I got. So what were like some difficulties that are going into this, like crossing the border, language barriers, stuff like that?
What was really difficult, honestly, was the lack of sleep. We did not sleep that much. We were constantly driving back and forth, back and forth. There was a lot of pressure, good pressure. I mean, everyone wants to donate at home, but then it's my responsibility to deal with those donations quickly and ethically and hand them out in a way that doesn't put me in danger from, thieves or whatever. The language barrier was an issue, but there was a lot of translators at the border. They're helping with the initial process of them agreeing to come and where we need to transport them to. And so that wasn't too bad. I'm kind of used to language barriers at this point, having lived abroad so much. But what was really tough was hearing and seeing victims of war right after they escaped the war. We were right up against a conflict zone there. And so we heard stories about, women who had left their husbands that day, or fighters who had been in of air raid pretty recently. So what was tough was the emotional impact of witnessing all this and being close to it, and the lack of sleep, honestly, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So what was the maximum amount of people you were able to transport, like in one go?
It depends, honestly. Some people were willing to squeeze a lot of people in there to get away as quick as possible. So I think our biggest load, we just had a 5-seater, and we would always put at least 4 people in the back seat, sometimes 5, one time 6. But In the end, we transported 43 people in 10 days, and the youngest was 2 months old, and the oldest was probably 85. And we also transported a dog and 2 cats.
Okay, so that does go right into the next question. How much, when it comes to like belongings, were you able to like transport belongings and like just pets for most of the refugees there?
Well, there was tons and tons and tons of refugees, and that was also a difficult part as well. Was you have to so you basically what happens is you show up, they announce that you have a car with that you can take 4 people with, and you're going to Krakow, for example. And then a ton of people come up to you, and they all want to ride, and then you have to choose which people you can take and how many you can fit, and they're carrying everything they own, and honestly it was never a lot, and some of them were not lucky enough to own a suitcase before the war broke out, so they're carrying it in like grocery bags, like bursting at the seams. So another thing we saw some volunteers doing was donating suitcases, so it wasn't as difficult for them to carry. But no, I mean, I sat for 5 hours with 2 cats on my lap, and I've also sat for 5 hours with the giant suitcases. These people were willing to cram as much as they could and leave behind the rest and cram as many people as they could and just, kind of endure it for the hour-long drive to get away. So that wasn't really an issue, no.
Mm. And again, you're doing transitions wonderfully. So in that case, like what kept you going throughout this whole journey you're going through there?
Well, the support from back home really pushed me to keep going. A lot of messages from home were very encouraging and they were very proud. Also, my friend that I went with, it was so good to go with someone. I really can't emphasize that enough. Because whenever I was feeling down, he would kind of take us up, drag us out, and vice versa. We both had our moments where we wanted to stop because it was becoming really heavy for us. But we just kept going. I mean, the people, like we saw some terrible things, and we also saw some beautiful humanity. Absolutely. For example, one time we brought this mother the mother was stuck in Ukraine, and the daughter had escaped into Poland, and we reunited them. And just seeing them hug and the relief they had, like the mother collapsed in my arms crying, or looking at this 2-month-old baby that we took to safety. Like, it's all worth it. It's worth the sleepless nights. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So I guess what kept us going was the people we were meeting and each other, and just people. People kept us going.
Now, another thing is, what do you think was the most memorable trip that you had throughout the time you had?
That's tough. I remember we picked up a boy who was 14 years old that had crossed alone. So he was completely alone. Normally we took families, mothers and children, and their mothers sometimes, or elderly couples. People mostly had someone they were with, but this boy was alone, and he had one bag, and you could tell he had just escaped like an hour ago. And it was tough to see a kid alone. So that one stands out to me a lot. Other times that stand out to me was honestly the kids, the little kids, like 7, 8 years old. They knew some more English than their parents sometimes, which was not a lot. I mean, they knew like dog, cat, thank you. But whenever the little kids would say thank you to us, was very, very precious. And whenever we could reunite them with their family was real. We cried a lot. So I guess those are some of the ones that stand out to me.
Now, with all that being said, where can us as viewers and just people in general, where can we go to support your cause here?
That is a great question, and I am still working on formulating that answer. But my dad has been the pinpoint person for donations in New Hampshire, so I can get you guys into contact with him. And I'm also working on forming a list of organizations that I think are worthwhile to donate to, which I will also get to you in the future. I apologize for the delay.
It's all good there. And all those will be in the description down below. Now, Becca, it was absolutely fantastic to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, too. It was a pleasure.
Okay, real quick. The crisis in Ukraine is something that's affecting so many people. And there's several ways that you can help. Most accessibly would be donating to various funds and charities, like care.org. Care.org is partnering with people in need to donate food, water, hygiene kits, as well as giving ongoing support, primarily focusing on women, children, and the elderly. Doctors Without Borders is supplying medical kits to Mirpol, Ukraine. They're also setting up emergency response activities in Ukraine as well as bordering countries. United Help Ukraine is a non-profit organization that's taking and distributing food, donations, and medical supplies to help Ukrainians affected by the war. And finally, the Kiev Independent. Kiev Independent is an English-Ukrainian independent media source that's focusing on keeping Ukraine's media going. Their GoFundMe, as well as all the other charities that I listed, are in the description down below. And with that, back to the studio.
Thank you, Tyler, for all that great information. And thank you to Becca for all the good work you're doing over there. Moving on to more local news.
The New Hampshire Theatre Guild, in conjunction with Kingswood Theatre, presents the 2022 State Theatre Festival, hosted in the Kingswood Arts Center on April 2nd from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. The festival will feature a full day of theater presented by Pittsfield High School, Plymouth Regional High School, Portsmouth Christian Academy, Franklin High School, Guilford High School, and our very own Kingswood Theatre with their production of the Yee Haw Haw Review. Kingswood is scheduled to perform at 1 p.m. Tickets are available at the door. Audience members are strongly encouraged to get there ahead of time, as once each production begins, no entry will be permitted until the completion of the show. For more information, visit kingswoodtheatre.org. And now on to Elliott with sports.
Good morning, Kingswood, and welcome back to the Night Watch Sports segment. Now, this week is a little special because we're coming to you live as we record the show for the very first time. The reason for this? Well, it's March. Craziness, wackiness, the NCAA likes to call it madness. So, let's not waste any time. A few games happened yesterday, kind of a big deal. Number 4 Arkansas beat number 1 Gonzaga. Now, this has re-sparked some conversations that have been happening over the past couple of years. Gonzaga is a mid-major school, meaning they're not in the conferences with any of the big boys like Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, all of them. So, it's kind of the same question we asked ourselves about the Cincinnati Bearcats during the college football season. How good are they really? We're not quite sure. Obviously, they're a very good basketball team, but if you put them in the ACC or the SEC, who knows? They might not be quite as good. Number 2 Duke beat number 3 Texas Tech. Big game, but not actually all that surprising of a result. Both very good teams, but one of them had coach Mike Krzyzewski and the other one just didn't. Number 5 Houston beat number 1 Arizona. That's kind of a big deal. And number 2 Villanova put an end to number 11 Michigan's magical run. Now, a couple stories I'd like to talk about just in terms of runs that have been made through the tournament as of right now. Number 10 and number 11 Iowa State and Florida have both had a couple of upsets and are now going to face each other tonight. Number 8 UNC beat number 1 Baylor, who are coming off of a national championship. Number 11 Michigan, as I just mentioned, were on a bit of a run, but after beating number 3 Tennessee, they just couldn't stand up to Villanova. But all of those pale in comparison to the beautiful run that is St. Peter's College. Now, you might be asking yourself, Elliott, what is St. Peter's College? I do not know. I don't think anybody knew if you didn't go to St. Peter's before, I don't know, like a couple weeks ago. But regardless, number 15 seed, St. Peter's, in their first round matchup against the Kentucky Wildcats, won. They won. Then they move on to the next round. I've got to admit, the school they played, the name escapes me right now, but believe me, it was a very, very good team. And, sorry, my computer fell asleep. Hold on. Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Okay. Sorry about that. So you might be asking yourself, who is the person leading this St. Peter's team? You're thinking it's some guy with the skill set of Kevin Durant or the size of Giannis Antetokounmpo. No, it's Doug. It's Doug. And this isn't just a random guy I pulled from the roster. This is the best player on the team. This is Doug. He is very good at basketball, apparently. I don't know. But moving on from college basketball, actually not moving on yet. I'm just going to tell you the games tonight real quick. Portland faces Southern Utah. Providence faces Kansas. Iowa State plays Miami. St. Peter's plays Purdue. Let's go, Doug. And UNC plays UCLA. A couple more announcements. NFL free agency is still happening. Deshaun Watson got traded to the Browns. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Like, I'm going to be completely honest. They'll be good, but I don't know how good. Matt Ryan went to the Colts. That's a pretty good pickup for them. I think they're going to win the division. And Tyreek Hill got traded to the Dolphins. I don't think him or Mahomes are going to be as good now, but who knows? That's going to do it for me, Kingswood. Thanks for stopping by, and now we're going back to my right.
Here's the lunch menu for the coming week. On Monday the 28th, it's cheese quesadillas.
On Tuesday, the 29th, it's chicken drumsticks.
On Wednesday the 30th, it's tacos.
On Thursday, the 30th, it's French toast sticks.
And on April 1st, on Friday, it's pizza. And this just in, the Night Boutique is now open for prom dresses and accessories through April 8th. Please see Miss Schatzer and Miss French for a pass. That has been Night Watch. I'm Kay Baker.
And I'm Caitlin Cooper.